Well, and one of those who helped create that impressive amount is Holger Busch, and he's responsible for marketing and advertising sales at the German Magazine Publishers Association. How do you explain this enormous success of the so-called creative industry?
Yeah, the creative industry employees about 1 million people. The creative industry has a turnover of about 130 billion euro. It's a very young industry. It's a very flexible one. And
what makes it so flexible? What would you say makes it so flexible? Does it have to do with the fact that there's so many freelancers in it? I mean, according to the German Ministry of Science and Technology, that sector is made up of 28% of freelancers, which is quite unusual for German standards.
Yes, of course. The above average amount of freelancers makes the creative industries very flexible, and this is an advantage for the industry and also for the people. But in economic problematic times, it's of course also a disadvantage, and so we have to look for common solutions to care also for these employees.
Because they don't get sick pay and no holiday pay and all these things. Okay, before we continue to talk, let's take a closer look at one specific sector of the so-called creative economy, and that's the print media, which, despite the success of the creative industry, has come under a lot of pressure in recent years. Publishers sell less and less magazines and daily newspapers, which also leads to a decline in much-needed advertising revenue. This downward spiral hits huge papers like the New York Times just as badly as small local niche magazines, because they all have a common enemy, and that's the internet. So how can the print media adapt to these changing market conditions? Here's how the Financial Times Deutschland and Capital magazine are facing the challenge.
The editor-in-chief of this newspaper says he's still pleased with the stories his reporters wrote yesterday. But every day there are fewer and fewer ads from major paying advertisers. Stefan Klusmann has stopped his morning tally.
I haven't done that for a while. I mean, I'd be finished quite quickly, you see.
Were there more in the past?
Oh, yes. I think there were 5 to 10 times as many. When we started up, we had 12 pages a day net on average. The others did too. Today we only average about 1.5 pages. And there are days when the papers don't have any.
Everyone in the newsroom knows advertising revenues are plummeting, but the show has to go on. Every day there's a conference at 11 a.m. No matter what the publication, the burning issue is operating costs. It's the same here. Since the start of the year, 60 jobs have been cut. A staff of 250 now produces publisher Gruner & Jahr's 4 business papers and magazines. Fewer people are doing more. The pressure to save is so great that the editor-in-chief hasn't got time to chair the editorial meeting. It's one of those days when Stefan Klusmann is responsible for 2 publications. In addition to the pink pages of the Financial Times, he must also get the monthly magazine Capital ready for print. Is one of the publications suffering?
No, they're equal. First I do one job for 2 weeks, then I move on. There's no difference.
Why do you have to work on 2?
Because we're exploiting synergies. Capital and Financial Times Deutschland have very different publication schedules, but the copy for major stories is quite similar.
He's noticed there are occasional conflicts. But necessity is the mother of invention. Teamwork is said to be improving, even sometimes when he doesn't know which end is up. Next up, the advertising department.
Of course, it would be nicer to plan for 40 pages daily, but this is also exciting.
Now it's 28 pages?
Yes, I've got to paginate them.
This is where the advertising slump is particularly apparent. Today, a bank has bought ad space. The paper is being read by more people than ever before, but primarily online, for free. The publisher says they'll survive. They have reserves. And they're not alone. All of the publishers have fallen into the trap of providing online news for free.
I think you have to start making people pay for it at some point, and the sector is considering it. Some of our competitors are now considering making their offerings subject to charges instead of putting it all on the net for free.
Can you do it all at once, even though you're in competition?
Yes, if you comply with the laws on competition.
Klusman also says acting together is the best way to do it, but the sector isn't yet in agreement on the issue. And becoming the only paper to charge for online news would be suicidal at the moment. So in newsrooms all over Germany, staff sit and multitask to their limits. Online editors, page editors, magazine reporters.
I'll read that story later. What's this? We've got pictures for Porsche, and they're in the right order.
He says design will be the decisive factor in the next 5 years, and that they have to survive those. But not with print newspapers, with something completely different, something new and digital, and it would be okay if it was expensive.
An ideal model would be one with a folding screen. And then you'd have a stylus, something like a pen, that you could pull out. It would almost be foldable, almost like a piece of cloth. You could plug it into your cell, your iPhone or BlackBerry, and see the latest edition of the paper, download it and read it.
Knowing what will become important is the paper's motto. But perhaps at the moment, Stefan Klusman would simply like to know how to make the best of a tricky situation.
Let's go back to Holger Busch, who's with the German Magazine Publishers Association, and there he's responsible for marketing and advertising, sales of all things. So if you're honest, can you still enjoy your job, or has it become too difficult?
It is difficult, tough times, but difficult times are always exciting times, and so I still enjoy it.
So, and challenge is also something that one can enjoy. However, revenue, as we all know, has gone down. And actually, we have some figures prepared for you where it becomes clear that advertising revenue has dropped significantly for magazines by 7% last year, followed by newspapers with a drop of 4%, whereas online is gaining 9%. And, well, it looks like what we've heard before, that the internet actually is the enemy, that is true.
No, the internet is not the enemy to newspapers and magazines. I think it's more friend, because the business model of newspapers and magazines is not only to sell printed paper, but to sell journalistic contents via every media channel, for printed magazines, for the internet, for mobile, or any other media channel you can choose.
So if it's a friend, can it be used better?
I think it can be used better. In the moment, we depend very much on advertising revenues, and they are not high enough to finance the amount of money the publishing companies need to finance the websites. So we have to strengthen the online advertising, and we have to look for new devices like the e-reader, like Kindle, where we can deliver the journalistic content to readers and target groups.
So there's room for improvement, and there are chances. Holger Busch, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.